Thinking about buying a new plant? Well, before you do, let's just make sure that you get the right one for your space, for your lifestyle, for your plant goals, for that right space in your home. Because whether you've just started or you've got a beautiful green jungle somewhere, this is the ultimate guide to buying and keeping that perfect plant. Now, if you've seen a couple of these videos before, because this is a compilation of this series, I've sprinkled some extra gems in there, some quick tips, some fun little planty facts here and there, things I haven't mentioned before. So even if you're rewatching some of the videos, there's still something new to discover along the way. So here on the screen, on the left here, is a list of all the videos in this compilation. I'll make sure that all of them have timestamps in the description because I know that your time is precious. This is a fairly long video, and then you can just choose what's best for you. Or if you watch the whole compilation, they are in order from the first video to the last. And to make it even easier to choose that perfect plant, I've created a cute little bonus plant quiz for you, and it'll just help you build even more confidence to picking that right plant for your space in your home. You'll just need to look out for a QR code on screen when you see it. I'll also make sure there's a link in the description for this plant quiz. Then when you get the quiz, you answer some questions about your space that you're trying to fill, and then you'll get a personalized result to help you pick the exact right plant with confidence. All right, let's get into the very first video where I take you through some of the best tips to buying a new plant at the plant shop. Let's go. Doing shopping. 24 minutes. I can actually feel the excitement of allowing myself to buy a plant this morning. I totally get the impulse buy of just wanting to go out and buy some plants. You've got it in your head now that you want to go out and buy some plants for your house. You're not really sure what you're looking for, but just hop in the car and go for it. So today, just for you guys, I'm going shopping. I mean, someone's got to do it, you know, but we're going to go and buy some plants, and I'm going to show you just some tips and things to think about when you're looking for a plant, especially if you're just starting out. But the first tip I'm going to give you actually doesn't start in store. It starts here at home first. Before you go out, you just want to have a little bit of an idea of what you're looking for. Think of it like you're going out to buy your grocery shopping. If you want to eat healthy, you need to have a little bit of a list and a little bit of an understanding of what you're buying beforehand. Otherwise, you'll just buy a whole lot of impulse stuff, probably a whole lot of junk food, and it's not the best or healthiest for you. So especially if you're brand new to plants, the first things you just want to double check at home is the space that those plants are going to be. Do you have a place in your house where you want to fill with plants? Is it dark or light? Is it near a window? Is it next to a wall? Does it have shelving? Is it big? Is it a small size space? Already that lighting and that space will tell you a lot about the types of plants that you want to buy. Obviously, if it's a dark corner, you need plants that are going to be more okay or more tolerant of a darker light. And if it's next to a window, you also want to just maybe figure out, is it north, south, east, or west facing? The sunlight that comes through that window will dictate a lot about the type of plant that you need to get. Second thing is quickly just try and do a bit of research and make a list. So based on the space in your house, have a look at YouTube videos, go Google, use AI, do whatever you need to do, and get a list of the certain types of plants that will be okay with that space. If you have a list, it'll stop you from impulse buying as much, and it'll help you really find the right one. And then finally, a little bit of advice for today, for me especially, have a budget. I really want this plant that I have been searching for a while. It's just a nice, beautiful green philodendron, but every time I see it, it's $60. I don't want to buy it for $60. I think it can come down, and maybe it will come down in 6 months. Anyway, long story short, have a budget. It'll just help you be more directive and more adamant about your plant purchases, and you won't just buy willy-nilly impulse. Now, there is one bonus tip. This is optional if you would like it, but grab yourself one of these. No, it's not a suitcase. I mean, it kind of is a suitcase. It's a suitcase for plants. No, it's a wheelable trolley. You don't need it, but I absolutely love it because if you buy plants, you can sometimes get those boxes, those cardboard boxes that are free in the shops. They get all soggy and they don't hold the plant. And if you're gonna grab a couple of plants, 2 or 3 or 4, then these things are so handy, handy, handy. I love this one. I'll leave a link to this one below if you want it. Otherwise, just look for carry case or trolley with handle. That's all you need to do. This one comes in all black. I love this color. I think it comes in pink or red or something like that. Okay, now we've done our research, now we've done a little bit of homework, let's go back to the shops. Okay, let's go for my favorite 3 words now. Let's go plant shopping. No, that's 4. Let's go shopping. So now that we've kind of understood the space of the plants that we want in our house, now we've got a bit of an idea of what to look for in terms of the plants. The first thing you want to do when you start looking at some plants that you like, check the plant for health. And don't just have a once over. I want you to really get close. Get your face into that plant, put it right up to your face if you want. What you're trying to do is check the health of the plant. Check the leaves, check the stems, check the base of the plant. If there's a couple of different plants in there or not, you're looking for yellowing or wilting or crispy edges. Now, if there's one or two small little marks or a little bit of yellowing on the bottom base leaves that are really small and it's a bigger plant, it's okay. One or a few dead leaves here and there are fine. That's pretty natural in terms of plant life. But if a lot of the plant is in bad shape, if it just doesn't look right to you, move on. Avoid the yellowing and drooping leaves because it could be a sign that the plant is stressed due to overwatering, underwatering, fertilizer, or it could be the next step, which is it could have pests. So while you're there checking the leaves and the stems, you also want to check for pests. Look under the leaves, look in the soil, is there anything small flying around? And not just looking for pests itself, look for any signs of pests that might have been there already. So if the edges of the leaves look like they're tiny little like dots and staccato, that could be a sign of spider mites. If you feel the leaf and it has sticky residue on it, that could be a sign of scale or mealybugs. Healthy leaves should feel firm and vibrant and not wilted or damaged. Honestly, trust your gut. If the plant just looks off or weird, just simply move on. Next thing to check with the plant that you like is the size of the plant in the pot. Plants should fit their pots really well, not too big and not too small. What you're trying to see is, does that plant have a good root system? So don't be afraid, pick up the pot. If you've got an inner pot and an outer pot, grab the pot inside, have a look underneath the pot, look at the circles. Are there any roots coming out? A little bit is fine. Too much is not a good thing. It means it's root bound, it's overcrowded. It might not be taking up water too much. And if you can, gently try to lift the plant out of its pot. Healthy roots should be nice, white or light tan. They shouldn't be mushy and they shouldn't be brown. They definitely shouldn't be soft. And finally, just check the soil. Compact, hard soil can prevent water from reaching the roots. So look for plants with loose, airy soil instead. A plant with overcrowded roots or dense soil just might need a little bit of extra care, so it's better to choose something else that's more healthy, balanced option. The next thing you just want to do is match the plant to your lifestyle. So if you've done the exercise in point 1, you might have made a list of some of the plants you're looking for. You want to go for easier to care for plants that are a little bit more resilient. Pothos are amazing, and pothos do come in several different types. You can get variegated ones, you can get non-variegated ones, and they're quite easy because they're okay with missing a watering or two. If you're too busy and you tend to forget watering, pothos will still survive quite nicely. If, however, you're a helicopter plant mom, you might want to go for something that needs a higher watering needs. Something a little bit easier but higher, it needs a lot more water, like a peace lily. Peace lilies love water and they love quite a bit of watering. I actually have a whole video about peace lilies, so if you want to have a look on how to care for them, please do watch this video. I'll leave a card up here. I also have a great video about some great beginner plants here, and again, I'll leave the card for you. The next tip is some things to avoid. So one of the things you want to avoid is really fussy plants. You may have heard this in other videos. Something like a calathea. Honestly, calatheas are just gorgeous. They really get you in store. Their leaves are stunning, their patterns are stunning, they have really beautiful colors, but they are big divas, as in they are very high maintenance. So look, if you want to buy a beautiful calathea to start with, I'm not going to stop you. You'll probably learn a lot from it, but just don't be disappointed in yourself if it doesn't go right the first time, because they are fussy plants. They love high humidity, they love consistent damp potting mix, they don't like it too dry, they don't like it too wet. They are just fussy plants. Beautiful, but fussy. So my honest opinion would be to stay away from calatheas if you're quite new to plants. Another one to stay away from is ferns. And I would say all ferns if you're a beginner, most ferns if you're a advanced beginner. Something like a maidenhair fern, again, this plant is absolutely gorgeous, but they are finicky. They need really high humidity. And if you have a look at the leaves, they're really lovely. They're almost like little heart shapes, all these little heart shapes. They're so beautiful, but they're really thin and they are really soft. So don't go for very finicky, very diva-ish kind of plants. Try and stick for plants that are easier to start with. Again, look at beginner videos, or in general, pothos, philodendron, ZZ plants, snake plants, they're all just gorgeous plants. So try and get something that's a little bit more beginner friendly, because beginner friendly plants are more stable and can put up with a little bit of inconsistency here and there when you're getting used to learning about your first plants. So a pro tip, if you're just starting out with plants, especially to understand how much water a plant needs, check the thickness of the leaves. the thinness and the thickness. Is thinness a word? The thinness and the thickness of the leaves. If the leaf is super fine, super thin, if the stem is super fine and super thin, it means that it's going to need lots and lots and lots of humidity and lots of water to help it stay strong and stable. So you're going to have to be watering very, very often. On the opposite side, if the plant has very thick leaves, something like a snake plant, cacti, or a succulent, they need watering a lot less because the plant holds a lot of water in those leaves. Thin leaves, thin stems mean lots of watering. Thick leaves, thick stems, thick roots need less watering, and there's a whole scale in between. Also remember, if you do like a succulent, they're not the easiest plants to start with. A lot of people think they're just simple. You just put it into some light and you just leave them. That's not quite true, but you do need to make sure they have bright light. You need to make sure you have a place in your home where succulents can sit in direct light, especially morning sunlight, for at least 3 or 4 hours. So make sure you get succulents and put them into a high light position, and don't forget to water them. You obviously don't water succulents or cacti as often as something like a philodendron or a monstera, but you still do need to water them. Succulents aren't the easiest in my mind for beginners. And then finally, another beginner trap to avoid is to buy really big plants. Now, don't get me wrong, big plants are absolutely gorgeous. You can find big plants in stores like fiddle leaf figs and huge peace lilies, and they just look stunning. And the great thing about big plants is they do fill a space very easily, obviously. So if you've got a nice blank corner, it is very easy to put a big plant in a wall space or a corner space. But the problem is, if a big plant moves into a new environment, it can easily stress and lose leaves. And it just won't look nice if it loses a lot of leaves. However, if you go on the other side, you can buy smaller plants. Now, smaller plants are obviously small, and if you've got a big space to fill, they'll just take a while to grow. But to me, I would honestly err on the side of a smaller plant. You can learn more, you can learn faster, you can learn watering needs, and you can grow that plant into the size that it needs. Smaller plants, when they lose leaves, you can't notice it as much, and they grow into big and bushy plants. So just beautiful. And then finally, when it comes to plants, there's one thing you should also remember. Anything with flowers or fruit, or anything with colored leaves, or anything with variegated leaves, all of these plants need more light on average than others. A plant takes light in through its leaves, through the green in its leaves, through photosynthesis. So if you've got less green in that leaf, then it doesn't have as much opportunity to grab light. So you need to give it stronger, more brighter light. And if it has flowers and fruits, this takes a lot of energy from the plant. So again, the plant gets its energy from lighting, so you just need a lot of light. So I don't mind if you go for anything with flowers or something with a nice, beautiful colored leaves. That is easy, like a variegated pothos. But if you're really, really starting out, you want to go for something easier. So look for a fully green leaf, so that will help you and the plant get its energy better. Don't get me wrong, there's always exceptions, but you will get to know all of this as you move more into understanding plants. Just for now, start with something that is a nice, beautiful, thickerish kind of leaf. Go for dark green leaves, go for strong green leaves, go for a medium or smaller size plant, and make sure you get used to understanding those plants' needs to start with, and then move into the harder, more diva-ish plants. Okay, I'm back home. I'm so excited for the plants I got, but let's just go through some simple online tips as I promised right at the end, because it can feel like a bit of a gamble, but if you look out for a few things, there are some real good signs that it's a proper seller versus maybe a dodgy one. Am I allowed to say dodgy plant sellers? Don't get me wrong, there's always scams, there's always cheats, but hopefully some of these tips will help you along the way. First thing is to make sure that you're researching the seller, the shop that you're going to use, especially if you've just stumbled across them on social media. Have a look at the reviews, have a look at the ratings, make sure the seller is just reputable online. Look for sellers with high ratings, and the tip is real customer photos. See if people have bought a plant online, taken it home, and they've shown that plant in their house. It doesn't matter if they're a beginner plant person or not. If they've got the plant home and they love it, they obviously have got a plant that has been sent to them and shipped really lovely. Second thing you want to look after is the photos of the plants in your site. Here on Growing Grounds, you can see here, I've just gone into a Ring of Fire philodendron, and you can tell this is their own photo. I mean, I know that there's a lot of hands. This is, look, this Miranda here has literally a hand, and I know that these tattoos here are AJ's tattoos because she shows them in her videos. So you know that that's the actual plant that you're going to buy. It really frustrates me. I've seen a few plant sellers where they have one image at the front of the plant shop, the main image, and then when you click into that image, the actual plant you're going to buy is like half the size or a third of the size, and it's just too good to be true. So try and see if they've got proper photos and descriptions. Postage for plants is hugely important. If they're offering postage for free, for me, that's a bit of a weird alarm alarm bell. Now, it might be just a great bargain, or they might be trying to get rid of clearance stock, but ultimately, especially in Australia, posting plants does cost money. And if you want to do it right, you've got to package up that plant quite healthily, quite strongly, because you don't want it to flop around and you don't want the stem to break in the box that they send it. So really good quality plant shops online in Australia especially have strong postage, and they post express. So you will be paying for postage. If you're not paying for postage, that's a big alarm bell for me. Next thing to look at is return policy. Usually you will find some kind of return policy down the base, or if you're just not sure and you really want to know, just send them a message on their social media or something like that. You'll be able to send them a message. Make sure you know what the return policy is in case the plant arrives damaged or not as described. Then finally, if you go online and you see a bargain that's too good to be true, it may not actually exist. I hate to say it. So just go with that picture, take it into a local nursery, take it into your big box store, take it to somewhere where they know a little bit about plants and ask about that plant. Is it a good bargain? Is it a good price? Is it too good to be true? If they are a good plant place, they will help you with plant care no matter where you're going to buy that plant from. Most people who work in the plant industry just want to help out people to get more plants, because ultimately, if they help you, then you're likely to go back to that seller. Good plant shops, whether it's in-store or online, have people who are willing to help you. And if you get stuck, just message it to me with the picture, with anything you need to know, and I will try my best to help you out as much as possible.
So, what's your first plant that you're going to start with? Have you got one in mind? Have you already started? If you have, let me know in the comments below what your very first plant has been, or plants have been. Were you successful, or did you just learn a lot from them? If you enjoyed this video and want even more tips, perhaps more pro, more intermediate and advanced tips, please watch this video next. Have a great week full of leaves, love and a lot of laughter. I will see you in this video in the next one. Bye.
All right. Now you know how to dodge the biggest plant buying mistakes. But if you think you've mastered plant shopping, maybe you knew a few of those tips from before, I want you to think again, because next up we're going to be diving into some pro level tips that plant experts use to pick the best plants in the plant store. So let's go to the next one.
You know how to buy plants? Well, let's take it up a notch. Today, I'm going to be sharing some more intermediate to advanced tips to help you buy like an absolute pro.
So whether you've got a growing jungle or you just love a good challenge, these tips will help you shop smarter.
Making sure that that plant that you buy is going to thrive and not just survive in your house. So let's get straight into it. And my very first tip actually is right here. We are at Newtown Garden Markets here in New South Wales, Australia. The reason we're here is because the first tip
is to start moving from big box bargains and expand your plant purchases
to buy from a nursery. These guys know what they're doing. It is their absolute livelihood. And the plants are always going to be beautiful and healthy. So the likelihood of you buying a plant that will last longer is a lot higher than if you buy it from a big box store.
Plus, if you're worried about paying a little more, don't, because these prices are really very competitive, more than you probably realize.
So make sure you do look at the health of the plant versus the cost that you're buying. I guarantee it may only be $1 or $2 more. And many shops do price matches anyway. So buy at a local nursery, help the people locally, and buy beautiful plants while you're there. Okay, tip number 2, and I am really excited to share this with you. It's probably my favorite out of the whole thing today, and that is buy on stock fulfillment day. Look at it. Look at it. Look at it. All this new stuff. So cool. And by the way, I'm going to have a lot of tips in this video, so you might want to grab a pen and paper and write some down, or just put some notes on your phone. Just a warning, there's a lot to go through in this video. Even if it's from a big box store, you want to go to a nursery or a plant store that is absolutely full of plants to get a better bang for your buck. A lot of people who know their plants do this all the time. So ask the people who work there, when are the plants delivered and what time? And then you can go in and grab the perfect plant.
Shopping after delivery really ensures that you're picking from the healthiest, most beautiful plants.
I know a guy on social media who always shops on plant delivery day, and because he's the first in the batch, he always seems to find like those rare finds, the ones with a little bit of variegation, and they are stunning. And it's just because he's there on delivery day and he gets the first of the batch. So there's definitely advantages to buying on delivery day. And another tip about a nursery is, while you're here, get to know the people who work here. If you have one plant store that you absolutely love going to, talk to the people that work here
and build a relationship with the nursery staff. They can give you insider tips on delivery days and alert you when rare plants are arriving. A friendly relationship honestly can mean such good insider knowledge on the best plants.
They can tell you when the plants are arriving. They can perhaps even maybe hold some plants for you as well. So really get to know the people who work in that beautiful nursery of yours.
Tip number 2 is to continue to master the basics, but with a pro twist. The first thing is, you obviously want to check the plant for signs of pest and root rot, etc. So if possible, make sure you are feeling the soil, make sure the soil is really right, it's damp, it's not soaked. But even for larger plants, see if you can glimpse the roots, like literally Push it to the side and look under. Don't be afraid to, really move all the big plants and the small plants around and look for signs of rot or overcrowding. Even if you've got like a tiny little small flashlight on the bottom of your keychain or something, use that, or even the light on your phone, use that to see if you can see the roots a bit better, because it can be dark, and if it's just been watered, it can be hard to see. So use your phone light to help you look at the roots. So you also know that you need to check for pests. So obviously look under the leaves, look around the soil, look at the plant, but really do take your time. If you really know your plants well, pests can be actually quite hard to spot. So you really do want to look very, very closely. Pro tip, don't just check for pests on your specific plant, look at its neighbors. If they're struggling, your plant might have some little pesky hidden hitchhikers of some sort. And if you know pests, they can multiply very quickly over a big bunch of plants. So have a look at the plants around as well as just the plant that you're looking at for pests. And then finally, a little bit of a pro twist is when you are looking at that plant, evaluate the growth patterns. Look for a nice, balanced, symmetrical growth pattern. Make sure the part between the nodes isn't leggy, and make sure you have a strong plant structure, especially where the soil meets the stem. If that is a little bit like droopy or floppy, probably not the best plant to go with. See if you can find another one. Another really good sign of great health for a plant is new growth. So anything with fresh leaves and buds are actively growing, and that's a great sign of a beautiful, healthy plant. And then I know we've said check for pests, check for plants around, but look just beyond the plants. Evaluate the conditions of the store. Sometimes the environment just tells you a lot more about the plant itself. Just have a look how the store treats the stuff, which is why, again, going back to tip 1, going with nurseries is just a really good idea. And speaking of nurseries, final tip for here for mastering the basics is speak to the staff. Honestly, a lot of the times nursery staff or plant staff who know what they're talking about know which plants have just arrived and know which are the healthiest plants. So just talk to the staff, be friendly, and ask them questions and find out which ones are the really good plants to buy. Area number 3 is to avoid the pitfalls of impulse buying. And I know we've all been there, but impulse buying in a lot of cases can do more harm than good in some ways. Instead of going just for impulse, try to match the plant with your routine. For example, growing a tropical plant that just loves high humidity with a desert succulent that thrives in dry conditions just makes it hard to meet the needs of both plants in your house. And honestly, if you are tempted by something different, just make sure that your home's needs are covering. So for example, if you've got all succulents and you start going for tropical plants, buy a humidity machine. Honestly, just really think about your house, your home, the needs of the plant, and make sure they match accordingly. Obviously, if you're growing your jungle a lot more, you also start to understand the plant varieties. So just do make sure you've researched them beforehand. If something is new or different to what you've already got, just check if it's hardy or high maintenance. For example, if you start adding Hoyas, they are slow, but they are forgiving. Or a fiddle leaf fig, everybody loves a fiddle leaf fig, but these guys can be drama queens. So if you haven't bought them before and you want to expand your horizons, go for it. You'll learn a lot, but just do research the plant varieties beforehand and make sure your home can fit it accordingly. And then something that I just need to tell myself all the time, this is one for me really, is to be realistic about the space in your house. I always just think that I can add another shelf or I can just squeeze another plant onto each shelf, but sometimes that's not true. So ask yourself, are you bringing the plant home for a space that you truly have, or will it just end up on the floor while you figure it all out? I can tell you right now, I do that quite a bit. For example, I really want some of these all new monsteras that are coming, they're just being grown recently over in 24, 25, but I'm not going to buy a monstera because I just don't have a corner space for it. And honestly, those leaves, those plants demand attention and they demand space. And I probably will stay away from it until perhaps I buy a new house. 2 more in this area. Try to avoid seasonal gimmicks. Look, we've just gone through Christmas and those cute poinsettias may not make it past January. They're beautiful, but they are so hard to look after. And do you really want a short-term fling with a plant? Do you really want to waste your money? It's up to you. If you're not sure, just resist seasonal gimmicks. And don't forget the beginner traps. When you start getting more intermediate and more advanced, you think that things are all flowing smoothly, but still some of the basics can catch you out. So, are you ready for more calatheas? Are you ready to try maidenhair ferns? Are you ready for perhaps adding a begonia? If you're good at begonias, I'd love some tips, by the way, so please do add them in. But just don't forget the beginner traps. It's very easy to do. Okay, area number 4. Let's talk about discount plants and rescue plants, because I know that there's a lot of you out there with a heart of gold and you love rescuing plants, but there are some tips in this area as well. So look, discounted plants often have hidden issues. We all know this. There's pests and diseases. That sad pothos in the clearance section might tug at your heartstrings, but if it's bringing spider mites into your home, it's honestly not worth it. So unless you're confident in quarantining creating and reviving a rescue plant, it might do more harm than good. But look, if you do love rescuing plants and you want to go and buy a rescue, just look for signs that are easier to manage. Maybe they're fixable. So for example, slight dehydration or just a few damaged leaves is a lot easier and fixable compared to something like root rot or pest infestations. So see if you can find a rescue plant that just needs a little bit more easy care than the harder care and trying to bring it back from the dead. And then just know when to walk away. Sounds easy, but it's hard to do. But just assess whether that plant is worth the investment and time and care from you. If it feels like a risky bet, honestly, trust your gut and move on. Don't take that plant home. Okay, area number 4 is just some pro-level strategies for smart plant buying overall. If you haven't already, you might want to start creating a wish list. This will help you stay a little bit more strategic to buy the plants you actually want and not spend so money on the plants that you don't. I have a wish list. I use Notion and I use pictures and everything. I absolutely love my wish list and I have a look at it and I update it. And not only does it help me keep track of the plants I want, it also helps me keep track of the needs of that plant as well. So just have a wish list. And if it's not on a wish list, and especially if you're trying to save money like I am right now, just think twice before adding it to your cart. Another really good tip, I love this tip. I do it for almost everything. Apply the 24-hour rule. So if you see a product, wait a whole day. I know it's hard, but wait a whole day. And then if you're still thinking about that plant 24 hours later, then go ahead and buy it because I know you'll absolutely love it. That's exactly what I do.
And in some cases, you might actually forget about it.
Then it's probably not the right thing to buy. Apply the 24-hour rule for impulse purchases. It's a huge lifesaver.
And it really does make you think whether you want that plant or not.
A couple of more things to add here for smart plant buying. Shop seasonally. You probably know this already, but if you don't, just a reminder that plants are often the healthiest when bought in their active growing season. So tropical plants are much more active and much more beautiful in spring and summer, and avoid buying those plants in winter unless you're ready to provide extra care. And then finally, especially if you're much more intermediate and advanced, focus on plants with unique growth patterns and something that you've really been looking for in your wish list versus the latest Instagram trend. I must admit, I do have a plant right now where I think I bought it mostly on trend. It's a small Monstera mint and it's just not the best plant and I'm not really enjoying it. I'm going to keep going, but oh well, you win some, you lose some, but you definitely learn from everything. And then just like in the first video where I did also offer some bonus tips around online shopping, I want to do the same thing for this video, just a little bit more intermediate or advanced thinking. The first one really is, if you're going for a rare plant, really do make sure that you're verifying the seller's reputation. Look for reviews that mention their packaging, their customer service. If you've seen any of my videos, you know that I always go with the same 2 sellers, especially for my rare plants, which is Flora Magnifica and Growing Grounds, and they are honestly the best in terms of service and product quality for my more higher end, higher cost plants. In the beginner video, I did actually mention that the photos should not be stock image, or they shouldn't be a little bit clickbaity. That's probably not the right word, but you want to make sure that the photos are the real plants that you're buying. Again, Flora Magnifica and Growing Grounds do this amazingly well. Don't be afraid to ask for photos of the specific plant or plants just to make sure you know what you're getting. They may be a little bit busy, don't get me wrong, but often a lot of sellers, especially online, if they're really good quality sellers, will send you a photo of the plant or the lot of plants that they're offering in their online shop. So really worth doing. Also, you might want to consider a few specialized growers or specialized retailers out there, especially around something like orchids or cacti or bonsai. There's quite a lot of sellers out there that really do specialize in certain types of plants. And of course, you really make sure that you get a good quality plant through a specialized retailer because again, they know what they're talking about. You might also want to consider wholesale options. Look, wholesale options obviously sell wholesale plants. There's quite a lot of wholesale plant sellers out there that don't sell to individuals, but some do. And you might even want to think about, you know, going in with family or friends, buying 5 or 10 or 15 of them, and then you can buy in a group. And sometimes when there is a minimum order quantity, if you go around with friends, you might be able to meet that minimum order quantity. It's not everywhere, I'll admit, but many of the plant sellers actually cater to individuals if you meet that minimum order.
Okay, we've done our plant shopping, we've got our plants. Now is the crucial step that we have to do. We have to take them home and help them thrive in a new environment in our house. That is probably going to be the hardest part of this whole plant journey, to be honest, is once you've got some really healthy plants, you need to keep them healthy over the next 2 weeks. And that is a whole other video in itself. So you're going to go straight to this one next. Have a week full of leaves, love and laughter, and I will see you in this video at home. See you later. Bye.
So, you've picked the perfect plant, but now what? What happens when you bring it home? That's honestly where most people go wrong, and it's why some plants struggle right from the beginning. So, let's talk about the first few weeks and how to keep your new plant thriving. What? There's nothing. That's new herbs. Red basil. Red basil. So you've got a new plant. Congratulations. You're feeling so good about it. You've picked an absolute beauty from the plant store. So now what? Well, okay, don't forget about this when I tell you, but the first few weeks when you bring a new plant baby home to your home are in fact probably the most stressful time, both for the plant and probably for you. So let me show you how I look after my plants when I get them home, because trust me, I have made all of the mistakes so you don't have to. Let me show you what actually does work. Just a very quick reminder, this is actually going to be part of a whole series of videos that I'm going to do, and it's called The Ultimate Guide to Buying the Perfect Plant. And I've already purchased some new plants through the earlier videos. So let me just quickly show you the plants I've purchased, because I've had a few people online ask me what I've got. So these are the plants. The first one obviously is this one. This is a Caladium Phoenix Fire, and I had to look it up because it just says Caladium species. So not very helpful. It's a beautiful, beautiful plant. Absolutely gorgeous, stunning foliage with a little bit of white, but mostly red, almost mottled with these beautiful striking green veins. It's a beautiful caladium. I love caladiums. Hello, have we met? If we haven't, I love caladiums. So this is now in my beautiful collection, and it was only 15 Australian dollars, which I think is about $8 or $9 in USD, if you're wondering. So a nice, beautiful caladium baby. Second one was this girl. This one was also from Bunnings, and honestly, I can't believe it's from Bunnings. Look at that gorgeous variegation on those plant leaves. It's just absolutely stunning. When I saw it, it was like only one of two, and I just couldn't believe it was from a big box store. So gorgeous, nice and healthy, absolutely gorgeous. And I think it's a Philodendron Rio. It just says Philodendron Brazil, but it's obviously not Brazil. Now, it's either a Rio or a Cream Splash, but I'm pretty sure it's not a Cream Splash, because Cream Splash normally has a little bit of white and a little bit of yellow through the middle of the leaf. But if I'm wrong, let me know. Someone out there, please do confirm for me whether it's a Rio or a Splash. I'd love to know. Don't care. Love it. Absolutely gorgeous. And then for those eagle-eyed, you might have seen this in some of my videos beforehand in this series. And this is my beautiful, beautiful, beautiful wishlist plant, a Hoya Indian Rope Variegated. And I just can't believe I found this. I've been looking for it for probably a couple of years, and just the variegation is absolutely beautiful. It looks nice and healthy. It was from Newtown Garden Markets, and I found a little secret because it's actually beautiful growth. Look at that. So I just have to be really, really careful. This is not an easy plant to take care of. I mean, it's a Hoya, so it's fairly easy in that sense. It's fairly forgiving, but because of the coiledness, I don't really know what to call it, it does hold pests very easily, and they're hard to see. So it's definitely not a beginner plant, but I've been looking for it for ages, so I'm very happy about that. My very, very, very first step is to just inspect the plant, and I say neaten it up. At this stage, get rid of all the dead leaves and be aesthetic about it if you want to. Like, there is a leaf here that I could cut off as well. Remember that all the dead leaves are actually a favorite spot for pests to hang out, especially things like spider mites, because it's nice and dry and warm. So get rid of all the dead stuff immediately. And the bonus from trimming the leaves is not only do you get rid of the pests if there are any, but it also lets more light into the good leaves and the surrounding leaves if there are any around the base or under those dead leaves. So you're cleaning off all the dead stuff off the plant, but also maximizing all the good light to get onto the good leaves, which is super important for your new plant in this stressful period. But if you are shopping online, you've obviously bought from a very good online reputable store because of videos 1 and 2, if you've been seeing those. So when you get the plant and you unbox it, you'll have a whole lot of packaging, you'll have a whole lot of like peanuts and moss material. Don't shove it out like you're a 5-year-old kid opening for Lego or anything, or Christmas, or like you see in the movies. Be really, really careful. And if it's got tape or cotton wool or anything around the soil, take that off. Undo the tape, take that off, get it to breathe and get oxygen to those roots. So just carefully unpack, inspect the plant for pests as needed, and neaten it up is what I say. And bonus tip, don't just check with your eyes, check with your nose. Yes, I did say to sniff your plant. Now, if it just smells like a nice, beautiful garden, it just means it's healthy. But if there is a really weird, ranky smell to it, if it smells more like maybe your boy's soccer room or your gym socks, then we have bigger problems there, unfortunately. That's a whole nother video. That's all about root rot, and I promise I'll do more videos around that another time. Right, that's the first thing I do. What's the first thing you do? Drop it in the comments below and let me know what's the very first thing you do to a new plant when you get it home. Okay, second step is check if the plant needs watering. So just check the soil. Is the soil dry? If so, give it a good soak and make sure the water doesn't just drip off the sides. Make sure it's not a little bit of water. You want a thorough drenching so the water gets through the soil into all of the nooks and crannies around in the soil. Of course, if the soil is too wet, if it's a bit dark, then leave it alone and let it dry thoroughly. Just remember, the most common thing we all do wrong as plant parents is over water. So before grabbing our watering can, just do really check check that the plant needs water. Now, if you're not sure, you can use your finger or a chopstick. Just stick the finger and the chopstick in the soil as far as you can. You want to not just check the top of the soil, but you want to check all of the soil and how watered it is. Now, if the soil has come out like that on my finger, see it's actually sticking to it, looks quite muddy, and I can actually feel that it's quite damp, then obviously it doesn't need a water, it's fine. If the soil comes out on your finger and it's like dust a little bit and it feels very light and it comes off very easily and it doesn't look dark, then it means the soil is dry, it's not sticking to your finger and it needs water. However, honestly, I totally recommend, especially if you're a plant beginner, get one of these babies. This is a moisture meter. This is my moisture meter or water meter, and I like this one. It's a little bit more bougie, but it's got a digital screen and it's bright because I need glasses and can hardly see. I'm getting old, so I love this one. Seriously, a moisture meter is such a simple tool, and it was invented purely to help with the biggest mishap in the planting world, overwatering. So do yourself a favor, get a moisture meter. It is absolutely life-saving, especially in the beginning, because it really helps you understand whether your plant needs a water or not. And trust me, you probably might be surprised when it doesn't need a water. Many people, as I said, overwater. So do yourself a favor, get a beautiful water meter and let it help you. Step 3 is you've watered it, you've checked all the dead leaves, you've neatened it up. Now clean the plant. So clean and wipe over the leaves. It's at this step you just want to remove all the dust, all the dirt that is sitting on the leaves, because you're trying to maximize the amount of light that is going to hit those cells on those leaves. You're trying to maximize photosynthesis on this new baby plant leaves. This is how the plant will get its energy to grow. And as it's in a new space, you really do want to maximize the energy to help it get over any stress quicker. And bonus, of course, is that when you are wiping over the leaves, it deters pests or maybe even gets rid of them as you're wiping them over. What you want to use on the leaves, you can use a very, very simple spray, a soapy water spray. If you're going to use a soapy water spray, some people suggest dish soap. I honestly recommend to stay away from dish soap, like dishes, what is it? Soap for your dishes, soap for your plants, soap for your dishes. Just don't use that. Go and buy yourself some Castile soap. Castile soap is very, very safe for plants and vegetables and fruit, actually. So it's 1 part Castile soap to about 4 to 5 parts water, maybe even a little bit less. Just make it soapy water, spray and wipe over the leaves. Castile soap is very, very safe for plants, but as I said, it's good for veggies. So you can also water any veggies that you get home with Castile soap as well. So it's actually multi-use, which is amazing. Now, I personally, when I'm spraying my leaves, I personally swap between a neem oil spray, and I've mentioned neem oil spray several times. I'll leave the ingredients down below if you want to make your own. Or I love this Vitality spray. It's called Vitality Plus. I absolutely love it. This thing cleans the leaves, it deters pests like thrips and fungus gnats and even spider mites, but mostly it actually also gives a bit of nutrients to the leaves. So this stuff is really, really cool. I've only just found it recently. I've been using it and my plants seem to love it. So neem oil spray, soapy water, or this Vitality Plus, or I'm sure there's more out there. And don't forget to grab some microfiber gloves. Of course you can use a microfiber cloth, but gloves, oh my gosh, I love, 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 love my gloves. And it just makes wiping over the leaves so much easier, getting into those little ridges and nooks and crannies with your gloves, with your fingertips. So you've got it home, you've cleaned out your baby plant. Now is going to be the hardest part for you. You need to leave it be for at least 2 to 3 weeks, maybe even 4 weeks. And this is step 4. You need to let that plant acclimate to your home. Now, I know it can be super tempting to fertilize or repot straight away, but honestly, less is more. Remember, your plant is actually adjusting from almost perfect greenhouse conditions. Then it went to the retail store where it was a little bit more stressed, and now it's come to your home where it's a little bit more stressed. And believe me, your plant will stress. And stress is actually quite normal. It's a weird thing to say for a plant to stress, but it does happen. But just remember, the best thing to do is to let it be, give it time to adjust to its new home. And if you do all of these steps, it absolutely will adjust. So you're probably looking at me going, okay, but what does acclimate mean? What does acclimate, is that how you even pronounce it, Angie? What does it mean? Well, for starters, some people aren't going to like me saying this. I know many of you want to get this plant baby home and repot it straight away. Please don't repot your plant. Only if absolutely 100,000% necessary do you want to repot the plant. For example, if the soil is really bad, if it's really cluggly, if it's chucking up the roots, soil is bad quality, of course, if it's not draining properly, if it smells bad, like we talked about before, or if it's root bound and all the roots are coming out. But that'll be very rare because you've done all the due diligence beforehand to buy a beautiful plant in the store with the right steps. I still leave plants that are in a weird soil for at least 2 weeks. Again, just because it just stresses the plant out. So I will leave it and then repot it after that 2 weeks. You also need to find your new plant a isolated spot in your house. You want to keep it away from all the other plants for a little bit. Now, some say this is optional. I would not agree with that. I actually think this is an absolute must, because no matter how much hard work you've already done in checking all for pests and wiping all the leaves, honestly, those little things are sneaky little buggers, and they hide in places you can't see or can't reach. So always, 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 it's better to be safe than sorry. It's only 2 weeks, and I personally learned this the hard way for sure. So I would recommend just setting up perhaps a little quarantine station for your new plants somewhere separate, a little bathroom, a nice little bright spot. Make sure that the plant is isolated, and in that isolated spot, make sure that it just has the right condition for what that plant needs. And remember, different plants need different needs, but you just want to set the right conditions for the plant. Now, for most plants, you want to check with lighting. Lighting needs to be a bright indirect spot. Maybe use a grow light or find a place in your house that's near a window but doesn't get direct sunlight. You want to check that it's got good humidity, especially if that plant is a humidity loving plant like a Calatheum or an Anthurium. Check for high humidity. But I do find that adding a humidifier to new plants in your home, especially if they're baby plants, is actually really, really key as well. It helps it acclimate easier. And if your plants are really, really small, you might even want to think about adding it to a propagation box. So it's a big transparent box with a little bit of moss. Again, it just creates its own humidity chamber, and isolate that away in a little box. And then finally, temperature. Just make sure it's a consistent-ish kind of temperature, not, you know, high draft, high winds, high heater. But the good news is most plants that you're going to buy from a big box store or a nursery, fairly tropical kind of plants, and they are comfortable in the same temperature that you are. So anything from like 18 to 24 degrees Celsius. Have no idea what that is Fahrenheit, so I'll leave that just here. And then final tip in this part around acclimation is just leave your plant be. Don't move it around the house. Honestly, changing conditions won't help it be happy. Think of it like just you're moving house. You don't want to move too often, and neither does your plant. Honestly, just give it a chance to get used to the new surroundings. Happy plants like consistency in temperature, humidity, consistent soil temperature, etc., etc. Now, as I said before, now you need to leave it for 2 to 3 weeks, and this is probably going to be the hardest part for you, because it definitely is for me. Try not to be a helicopter mom or a helicopter dad. Let the plant get settled. See if you can let the plant tell you how it's feeling by monitoring it closely. If you can do me a favor, can you leave this emoji right here if you're excited to try some of these tips if you don't do them already, or leave this emoji right here in the comments below if you're already doing all of these tips so far like an absolute rock star. Either way, love you for being here, but add an emoji down in the comments below for me. So you may have noticed that I haven't really mentioned yet about fertilizer. And my tip here is just don't fertilize the new plant, honestly. If it's a small plant like this, avoid it in the first month. If it's a larger plant, avoid fertilizing in the first 2 to 3 months. You really don't know when the last time they fertilized in the plant store or in the greenhouse, so just give it a bit of time. It can do with a bit of time away from fertilizer, that's fine. And especially if it's got these little baubles like this one here, these little yellow baubles in it, that's a slow release fertilizer, so it could even go maybe, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months without fertilizer, depending on how your plant is growing. It's gorgeous. So gorgeous. So I want to end this video by just offering a couple of weird and lesser known tips for some tricky plants out there that you may be purchasing at this time. So for example, we all talk about calatheas being a little bit tricky. They do like a good amount of humidity in the air. They also do like a fairly consistent damp soil mixture, a little bit of drying out and then watering them again. But my biggest tip I can give you is actually they don't really like tap water. So try using distilled or filtered water on your calatheas and see if that helps them stay beautiful and happy and healthy. Second tip, if you're buying a fiddle leaf fig, fiddle leaf figs are more diva-ish than you would think, and they hate change. So once they do settle in a spot, don't move them. You don't need to shake the tree. You don't need to shake the fiddle leaf fig tree. I don't know where that's come from, but they don't like change. So just note with fiddle leaf figs. Snake plants, and even to an extent Hoyas, love to dry out between waterings. So I make sure all the soil is absolutely dry or dry plus on my moisture meter before waterings, because they hold a lot of water in their leaves. If you've seen my very first video in this series, I talk a lot about how when it's thick leaves and thick stems and thick roots, the plant holds a lot of water, so you need to water less. And I find with monsteras just seem to love a nice consistent humidity, around 60 to 70%, but just consistent humidity. And a pro tip, if you really want to, go out and buy yourself a hygrometer, which actually monitors and measures humidity, just for that extra level of precision, just to learn more about your plants and more about how you set up those conditions. So now, congratulations are completely in order. You've set your plant up with the best possible chances of not only just surviving, but thriving from day one one in your beautiful house. So from here, I want you to give yourself a glass of wine or a chocolate or something as you're now honestly ready to gradually introduce your new baby plant to their final spot in the beautiful plant jungle. You've gone through all the cleaning or the setup, you've gone through acclimation, it's ready to go into its final spot in your house. And do remember that these little beauties aren't just one and done decorations. You've got to look after them, right? They're living things and they thrive with really good care and a really good environment. But don't stress, because the good news is most plants, not every single one, but so many plants are actually more forgiving than you think. And even if you make a mistake, you'll learn and you'll grow alongside them, which is what I love about plants. I love learning and I love growing, and I love seeing my plants do the same thing. Trust yourself, follow these steps, and you'll see your plants grow strong and healthy, honestly, in years to come. I promise you. If this video has helped you, please do hit the like button below. But more importantly, I want you to share those emojis that I talked about before and what is the plant that you've just purchased. Add your new plant into the comments below. Let me know the most amazing, beautiful new baby plant that you've just added to your collection or you're about to add to your collection. And if you do know someone who's just bought a plant, send them this video because their plants will thank you for sending them this video. Anyway, and of course, don't forget to check out my next video here where I'm going to be diving into the best plants that I would buy again if I had to start my plant collection from scratch in 2025. Thank you very much for watching. I honestly hope you have a week full of leaves, love, and laughter. And I really do mean that because I feel like if you have an abundance of leaves, love, and laughter in your life will be absolutely beautiful. Take care, and I will see you in the next video. See you later. All right, we've done 3 videos already, so just want to do a quick check-in. If you've got any comments or questions, please do pop them in the comments below. I love hearing from you guys. If there's any questions, I make sure I answer them, even if it's not in the first 24 hours. I go back and check I've answered every single question that's in there or comment. So please do ask me anything if you are still wondering. And speaking of wondering, if you are still wondering which plant will be the perfect for your space, there are a few more videos to go, obviously, but don't forget I've made that super quick little quiz that matches you with the best plant for your lighting, your space, your lifestyle. Now for the next video. What if you could go back and choose the absolute best plants for beginners knowing what you know now? Well, that's what I did. Let's talk about the only plants that I would buy if I was starting from scratch and which ones I'd probably avoid at all costs.
If I was to start from scratch, this would definitely be at the top of my list. The reason why I'm choosing this, and actually all 7 plants today, you'll see 7 different ones, is I wanted to find plants, if I was a beginner, that were easy to care for, as in you don't have to be super regimental on the watering or the fertilizing, but I also wanted the plants to be beautiful, look a little bit stunning, have a little bit of interest, and I wanted to share with you some different versions, some different varieties as well. So they're not all the same plant, so you can just get used to different types of needs for each plant. I'm going to start off with this amazing, beautiful, bright pink Syngonium neon. So it's the only Syngonium I've got in this list today, but I think Syngoniums are fairly easy for beginner people if you're just starting from scratch. I have to admit, this plant for me isn't the best condition it's ever been, but it's still popping out these amazing, beautiful, soft yet bright pink coloured leaves. And you can see here up the top a light pink, and down the bottom, once they get a little bit older, they do turn into this more of an apple green. So it's like this candy pink, candy apple green kind of colouring throughout the whole plant, which just makes it amazing. I love this plant because I do think it's easy care. If you see the plant wilting a little bit, it does tell you that it needs more water. It needs bright indirect light. You can put it in direct morning sun if you need to straight away. You can put all of these plants in direct morning sun because morning sun is very, very soft if it's direct, but no later than 10:30 a.m. depending on where you live, of course, in which country. Now this plant gives you a little bit of variety as well because it is I've got it here as a climbing plant, but it can also be a trailing plant. It still comes out with these big pink leaves, whether it's trailing or climbing, it doesn't matter. I've got this one here on just a basic wooden, it's not even a stake, it's like a plank of wood. And I've got fishing wire wrapping around a whole lot of sphagnum moss on it. So it's a makeshift kind of moss pole. It's a very easy moss pole. You just have to keep this damp so it will just climb up and attach to the moss pole. And then when it comes to watering needs for this guy, as with most plants, just don't overwater it. Give it a good chunky kind of potting mix. You could do equal parts of potting mix, orchid bark and perlite and just mix it all up. It's just got to be airy. So don't overwater it. But if you water it every 5 days for the first couple of weeks and every 10 days for the next couple of weeks, it'll still do well. It's one of those plants that can do with a little bit of inconsistency that, in my experience, are for beginners. So that's why I think it's a really good beginner plant. Plus, it gives you a beautiful pop of colour. And then, as with all Syngoniums, you will notice that if it doesn't have the right amount of light, it will get a bit leggy. And what that means is there'll be a lot of space between the growth points. If it's really leggy, that will get longer and longer and longer. So just be aware of that. So medium to bright indirect light, nice consistent watering, nice good drainage. Make sure you have drainage holes in your pot as well. You can't just be sitting in water, it always has to drain. But a nice, beautiful, easy plant as a starter plant. This is definitely my number one on my list. Okay, number 2 is, can you see this leaf here? So I'm going to turn it around. Oh, hold on, I'm going to move this out of the way. Oh, he's in desperate need of a repop too, I tell you. He really needs it. Okay, moving over. And this is not going to fit in the camera. Let me turn you around. Just look at this, babe. Oh my gosh. This is my pride and joy, or one of my pride and joys at the moment. This one here is a beautiful pothos. Now, pothos are very easy for beginner plants, but I love this one because it's just a little bit different and it's this bright green, almost chartreuse kind of leaf color, and it stays a really bright color even when it's more mature. And look at this one. Look, it's just growing like wildfire. There's one there, there's one there. Now, you can't see it up the top there. It's just growing for me. Now, I have this mirror light. I don't have it in direct sun at all. It does get bright indirect light, but I am really trying to look after this one because he's growing up a moss pole and I want him to get really big leaves. So it's starting to happen. Let me just show you, see if I can show you. Here we go. Look at the size of that leaf compared to, see that leaf and the size of my hand? That one? And then this. I mean, that is crazy. Look how big he's getting. So I'm really excited about that. Yeah, so this is a neon pothos. So we've got a neon Syngonium, which is pink, and a neon pothos, which is bright chartreuse green. Now, all pothoses, again, are very good beginner plants. They're really nice if you're a little bit inconsistent, if you've got a very busy schedule, or you're not quite sure when you watered it last. You just check the soil, and when it dries out, or when it's 2/3 dry, just make sure the potting mix is dried out as much as you want it to, and then re-water it again. I let the soil dry out completely before I water. When it does need water, these leaves will be really, really wrinkly, and that'll be another sign that it'll tell you that it needs more water. So it's just a really, really beautiful, easygoing plant. It obviously climbs. It's on a moss pole here, or you can trail it as well. And my advice is, once you get used to growing this pothos, it's a great propagation plant. So propagate it, cut off the vines, grow it in water or grow it in whatever medium you choose, pop the new shoots back into the potting mix itself. And that's what I've done. I've got about 4 or 5 different vines all crawling up this one. And it's so lush and so beautiful and gorgeous. Oh, I'm in love with this plant right now. I think it's just grown on me, literally and figuratively, so much, I tell you. Now, just like the Syngonium neon, the only thing about this one is if you don't have it in a bright enough corner, it will lose leaves down the bottom, as with many plants, but it will also not be that bright green. So you want to get some nice, good, like a grow light or indirect bright light to really give this one its nice, beautiful, vibrant color, just like you would with the pink Syngonium neon. So both of these plants are trailing and climbing, and both of them will help teach you about what the right type of lighting, how bright you need that light to be. Because remember, shady spots indoors are so much darker than shady spots outside, and our eyes as humans adjust to the shady spots inside or the darker spots inside, and it doesn't help us understand how bright it really is or how bright the plants really need it. But look, I don't think there's a lot of pros to this plant. I don't think there's many cons. Maybe there's just not a lot of variegation, but I love the color. It's a very, very different type of color. And, you know, if you underwater it, or if it gets a little bit leggy, or if it starts to lose its leaves at the base, you can pick up your pace a bit, you can water it properly, you can give it more light, and it will become better for you. It won't die off. It's a very hardy, stable plant, no matter if you give it a little bit of inconsistency, but it'll teach you as you go. So I think it's a great plant on this list as well. But while we're here, I'm going to show you one more pothos, which is number 3. Are you going to stay? You can stay. Stay. It's a bit windy today. So, okay, turning around. Everything's outside. I'm ready. I'm pre-planned. It's amazing. Right. You saw this in the thumbnail, most likely. Where's the front? Now, this one's inside, and you can see at the back. I'm going to show you a bit of a secret. That's the back of it, right? So it's all facing front where the light is going, but it's on the back wall. I'm okay with that. But this thing, again, it just grows for me like a weed. This is the other pothos. And this is one plant that every single person should have, whether you're a beginner or whether you're an expert. I think this one is just a beautiful plant to have in your collection. It is a great, great reminder of starting out with plants. And it's a great, great reminder that plants, I'll just take off some old ones that are in the base here. It's just a great reminder of almost where you start with your journeys. So this is number 3 on my list, and this is the golden pothos. If you've seen a few of my videos before, this has been on a few of them because this is the ultimate guy in extremely forgiving circumstances, basically. He's a fantastic beginner plant. And there's several reasons, but the main reason is this guy, again, is okay with an inconsistent schedule. So you don't have to water every 7 days. It's okay in different lighting conditions. It'll grow really big leaves, especially if you give it a moss pole or something to climb up. But it is okay as a trailing plant as well as a climbing plant. Now, the best conditions you can put him in is bright indirect light, But this is one of those plants that is okay in lower light conditions to higher light conditions. If you want to put it in direct sun, again, just some morning sun before maybe 10:30 a.m. But it's a tropical plant, so it does like a shady spot. It grows up from the ground. Now I have this one here. This is one of my beginner plants, and as you can see, it's so full. It keeps growing and growing and growing. I've got so many different vines just coming. Where did I go? Here we go. Look, it's all these vines that it just keep wrapping into itself almost, just to keep growing and growing. I should really propagate it actually. And then adding this to the collection so far, we had a beautiful pop of pink in the color leaf. We had a beautiful bright green. And then this one here adds a bit of variety with a nice variegation, but still very easy care. In fact, you can give it a little bit of neglect and it'll pop back, no problem, if you start watering again and you give it better light again. So if you neglect it a bit and then treat it well, it'll come back quite easily. The other thing, again, just like the other pothos, super easy to propagate, fantastic propagation plant for beginners, and you can put it into different mediums like just a water jar or some sphagnum moss or some perlite. Just give this one a go if you've never propagated before. Buy yourself one of these plants if you don't have one already, and try propagation for the first time. Now, if you don't want to go for the golden pothos with this yellowy, creamy kind of tone, there is another plant very similar, and it is the snow queen pothos. Yes, the snow queen pothos, and it is a lot more variegated. It just needs a lot brighter light. So you might want to give that one a go if you want to give yourself a bit of a challenge and you've never done plants before. Just remember, the more white you have in a leaf, the more brighter light it's going to need. Still indirect, not direct sun rays, but put it right next to a window. But again, this lovely lady will be good next to a window as well. Hello, Clean. Now, because this is such a good plant with different conditions and different inconsistencies and different lighting and watering needs, the one probably not good thing about it is it can be really, really invasive. It will grow like a weed even when you don't need it to. So if you keep it inside in a pot, in a big pot or a moss pole, go for it. That's fantastic. If you're going to put it outside, just be very, very wary. If you put it into the ground, it'll grow and it'll probably grow over others. It's a climbing plant. It'll climb over other plants and it can be very invasive. So just be careful of that. But ultimately, if you're just starting out, just get used to, finding new leaves, finding new branches, bright indirect light. Make sure you've thoroughly drenched the soil mix. It's a tropical plant, so give it a really chunky mix. Make sure that's airy and drain all the water out. But just a beautiful plant to add to the collection so far. At number 3 with a different type of coloured leaf. Have I missed anything? I don't think so. Just beautiful. So we're up to plant number 4. Yep, 4, I'm pretty sure. This is on my list, the ever beautiful, ever misunderstood, I would say, peace lily. It's a Spathiphyllum Warocresmia, something. I'll leave the actual name on the screen as a Spathiphyllum, but everybody calls it a peace lily. And honestly, I think this is one of the most underrated beginner plants, in my opinion. And the reason why people struggle with her is because she needs a lot of water. But the reason why I think it's a great beginner plant is, yes, she does need a good amount of watering, but you only need to water when she tells you to, because she will droop dramatically. She's a very dramatic plant. She can be a bit of a diva plant in that sense. But if she's droopy and you water her, she will perk back up again, and then you've got to leave her alone until she droops again. You don't need to keep watering and watering and watering. I think she's a great beginner plant because you need to watch what she tells you. You need to start looking out for signals and listening to plants. This girl can handle quite a lot of different lighting needs. She's okay in a lower light position. She won't grow ridiculously huge, but she will be okay. She'll survive in lower light. She's great in medium or a little bit brighter light. But again, she'll teach you about watering needs and making sure that you don't overwater. And the reason why I'm adding her to this collection, just the striking, beautiful, big leaves. It's very different to the other 3 plants and all the other plants I'm going to recommend today. And very easy to care for if you listen to what she tells you. I have a whole video on how to look after a peace lily, some really good tips and tricks, all about watering and lighting needs. I'm going to leave this video up here for you if you want to go have a look. So we won't talk too much about the needs of this plant, but I just think she's a very underrated beginner plant. All you have to do is look and listen and water. When she tells you, don't water any other time, and she will be beautiful for you, and she'll just add a real good striking plant to your collection. And honestly, I've actually just chopped this girl up quite a bit. You do have to watch out for pests, of course. And this one got a little bit bitten by caterpillar. So there's a couple of munches here and there from a caterpillar. So I had to get rid of a few leaves, but that's okay. She'll grow back big and beautiful. I really do recommend grabbing a peace lily. Even if you've peace lily before and you're going on a refresh, give this one a go. And she's just a beautiful, beautiful, luscious,
real tropical jungle vibes kind of plant to add to your home. Now I'm going to introduce you to the fifth plant. It's another vining plant. It is a philodendron, and if you have seen any of my videos before, you might know that I have lots of philodendrons in my house, so I had to have a philodendron recommendation in this list. But this is one of the plants that's been with me the longest from the beginning, and again, I just love her, and it is the philodendron Brazil, which I've got back here, but I'll show you because it's a really big plant hanging off of my ceiling. Here we go. But look at this girl. Look at the gorgeousness of this plant. It's not a rare plant. You can find this everywhere. But this girl, again, I mean, just grows and grows and grows. I mean, look at it. It's crazy. And I don't give her much attention at all. Like, she's just a fuss-free, beautifully growing philodendron Brazil. And again, one of the reasons why I really wanted to recommend her is just for the difference in the leaves in terms of all of the leaves from the collection today. It does look a lot like a pothos, I'll be honest, but it's not. It's a philodendron. I do mix them up, I'll be really honest. I sometimes name this as a pothos, but it's not. These leaves also do grow quite big if you let them grow up a moss pole in the right conditions. Just a very forgiving plant. I've got about 4 or 5 different vines coming out of the main. And if you can see a little bit, can you see that there? I did put a little bit of a green trellis type scenario. I've literally just clipped it with a bull clip. I mean, talk about lazy gardening. Here's it. But the reason I did that is because these vines have gotten so long, they've grown to the bottom like this. And then what I've tried to do is put it back in. Just let it go back up, grow back up. Again, to also just help the leaves get bigger again, because if the plant grows up a moss pole, the leaves get bigger. If a plant trails down, the leaves do get quite small. You've still got a lot of them, but you can see they're small. So I try and let it grow down, grow back up and grow down. Just a beautiful, easy care plant. It can handle different lighting conditions. You need to water it when it goes dry, put it into a nice chunky mix that I've talked about before, orchid bark, perlite, and potting mix, equal parts. Just a nice, look at it. Do you not want this beautiful trailing plant who grows with very inconsistent care, loves you no matter what you do? The only problem is if it doesn't have enough light, if it's in too low a light, it will become leggy and it might lose its leaves. And as I said before, it does keep growing and growing and growing. So you've just every 6 months or so either got to trim it and propagate it, or put it back into the pot, or just cut it and give cuttings away to friends. But it's just crazy. Hold on. It's just nuts. This thing is nuts. Look at it. You have to get one of these in your collection, honestly. Now, the hard part for me is putting it back up. But that's okay. It usually takes me a lot longer to do that. I feel like I have to kind of sit up a little bit here to see me. Then again, you don't need to see me. You need to see the plant. So this spot might look familiar to some of you if you've seen a few of my videos before. This is where I do a few of my talking head videos. But you don't normally get to see this plant because this plant is usually stuck behind a few others because it's quite tall and it fits in a nice small space vertically, you could say. Now, usually a lot of people love or look for monsteras. They have such amazing different kind of leaves, very, very striking, and people want to add a monstera to their collection very quickly. But for me, I would go for this mini monstera instead. And the reason it's called a mini monstera is not because it is a monstera. It's not. It's called a Rhaphidophora tetraspis, but it's so similar to a monstera type of plant, except it's just a little bit less fussy. And yet, look at the leaves. It gives beautiful, like monstera jungly vibes to each leaf style and each leaf pattern. And it can get those nice fenestrations. These big holes in the leaves are called fenestrations. And it's called a mini monstera. But the great thing about this is it's less fussy than a monstera, and it actually grows really fast, even in lower light conditions. Or when I say lower light, I mean medium to bright indirect light. I have this behind another plant. It's not the brightest spot in my house. There are grow lights around, but the plants in front of my mini monstera here get more light than she does. And yet she keeps growing upwards and hitting the ceiling for me. So she's a fast grower, even in a medium light condition. I wouldn't put her in a lower light condition. I would only keep in medium to bright, but you don't have to have the brightest spot. It will still do very, very well, and it will grow quite fast for you. The only thing you might notice is it might become leggy, especially if it's got no or very little light near the plant. This has been in a medium lighting position, and you can see I've got like 2 vines, I think, or 3 vines in here. I always put several vines or several plants in one pot to make it look lush and full.
And she's just doing beautifully. In fact, I've just given her a big chop recently because she was like overgrowing ridiculously so. The only con, I would say, the only downside is she can get root rot if you overwater. But that happens with all plants. If you overwater plants too many times, then they will get root rot and they will not do so well. So grab you that trusty moisture meter or water meter that I keep talking about and use it to pop into the soil to know when to water next. But this girl is a tropical plant, so she likes her soil mixture to be completely dry between waterings. So I think she's an absolutely beautiful plant, well worth adding to your collection, and really gives that jungly monstera vibes without having the needs for a monstera that can be a little bit diva-ish if she doesn't have the right conditions. Okay, we are down to the final one. This is my number 7. This is actually the hardest plant out of all 7. But once you find the spot it likes, it will be beautiful and it will grow for you without a lot of care. You just need to find the right spot. And I'll give you a couple of things to look for. This is the Ficus tineke, but look at the leaves. Just look at it. It's like a work of art from nature. It's just the most beautiful leaf I think I've seen on a plant for a long time. I mean, there's lots of rare plants out there, but this is quite a well-known plant. You can find this in a lot of stores, but if you get a nice one with nice genetics, I mean, just absolutely gorgeous. And the whole thing just looks like a beautiful work of art. And I've got this one, which I'll show you a big piece. This one is growing like nothing else. It's way too huge. It's taller than me and it's falling over. Now, the one trick to this plant is to keep it beautiful, you need to give it bright light. This one actually gets direct sun in the morning up until midday for me. It stays outside the whole year. The sun goes behind the fence, gives it shade in the afternoon. So especially on hot days, even though it does get really direct, full-on sun, it still doesn't get too much hot, burny sun. We had a 40-degree-Celsius day yesterday, and it still did okay. It's just absolutely beautiful. So if you give it good, bright, direct light, other than that, it's okay with other conditions, right? So it can handle, you know, a little bit longer watering or a little bit shorter watering, as long as you drench the thing when you water it, let it drain out. And in terms of temperature, this one, as I said, stays outside. So it gets all of the cooler winter and all of the warmer summer. And here in Sydney, our winters go down to about 1 or 2 degrees and summer goes out to, well, I said 40 degrees Celsius yesterday, but on average, it's about 28, 30 degrees. So we do have a bit of a tropical environment, but this one just stays out the whole year. But all you really need to worry about is the light on this one, which is why I think it's actually a really good plant to add to the beginner selection, these 7 plants, if you want to give yourself a bit of a challenge. But lighting is usually some of the hardest things for us humans to get right with plants because our eyes adjust, as I said before. So trying to understand bright light for a plant. If you really want to buy yourself one of those light meters, measure the foot candles or measure just the lighting or the lumen. If you don't give it a lot of light though, the thing that you won't like is it does drop quite a lot of leaves. So if you see leaves starting to drop on this one, give it more light. Even if you think you've got it, given it enough light, give it a little bit more light. Give it some direct sun in the mornings, as I said. It's just lighting is the hardest thing for this plant. So if you want to give yourself a challenge, this one is the hardest out of the lot. So add it to your discretion, but honestly, so worthwhile if you're going to get the variegation like this one has here. It's a different species. It's a ficus. It's like a fiddle leaf fig, but it's just much more beautiful, in my opinion, than a fiddle leaf fig. Sorry, fiddle leaf fig people who like that. I know there's people who like it. I'm okay with them. But this one, I love this one. Absolutely love this one. And you may have noticed in my list, I haven't actually added a ZZ plant or a snake plant. And the reason I haven't is because while they're great plants in a way for beginners, they're great for people who don't water often, who have a hugely social life and forget to water their plants, because the biggest worry with them is that you can overwater. But I don't think they're the easiest to care for. When I first started with plants, I was like looking at every detail and, oh my gosh, this doesn't need water, does it not? And I was very much a helicopter mum, and I overwatered the snake plant quite often, and same with the ZZ plant. I got used to it. You have to get used to all plants as well, but I just don't think they're as forgiving once you get something wrong. Whereas the plants I've added really, except maybe this little girl here, are very forgiving. Even if you get something wrong, they'll bounce back for you. So that's all the 7 plants. As you've seen, they're very beginner friendly, but they also give you a little bit of room to grow with a different need, whether it be lighting or temperature or watering consistency. But they are very forgiving plants, which is why they all belong in my top 7, and they'll give you a little bit of a challenge on the way. From testing your watering skills to learning about lighting to learning about propagation, all of these plants are great beginner plants, and I think they're an amazing 7 plants to have in your collection if you're starting out from scratch. What about you? Did you like all 7? Did you like one of them? Are you going to add one to your list? Or is there another plant that you would definitely add and recommend to the community? Please add it for everybody else in the comments below why you think it's a great beginner friendly plant. Please do me a favor and hit that like button. If you got any value from this video, give it a thumbs up. Let me know that you enjoyed the video. Now that you've got the plants that you need, you've bought the most amazing plants, you've acclimated them to your home. Now is the hard part, or hard for me anyway. You need to style the plants. And that's a whole other video in this series, and that's going to be the next one. So please do click this link right here. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you have an amazing week full of leaves, love, and laughter. You know how it goes. I'll see you in the next video.
Right, so we're getting there. That was video 4. Now we've got the plants, we've got the right plants, we've got the right space in our home that we're going to decorate. Now the question is, how do you style them so your home looks amazing without turning it into a messy jungle? So I've got one simple styling trick, honestly, that will change everything. It's a bit of a game changer. Watch this video next. So you've got your new plant, it's acclimated to your house. Congratulations, it's ready to now be styled in your house. But the real question now is, where on earth, I won't swear, where on earth do you put it? I mean, how do you make it look really good in your space without overcrowding it or making your home feel like a bit of a garden center? Well, today I'm going to share a simple trick with you that will actually change everything you know about styling and how to style your plants. When I first started my plant journey, I did actually go through a lot of trial and error, especially when it came to styling. To be honest, I'm still trialing different things here and there. Now, I have to admit, I'm not a designer. I hold my hands up, honestly. My house needs a lot of renovation before I can style it further. I look at some people and they can just throw together any plants and decor and it magically looks perfect like Harry Potter style. Seriously, I am so jealous of those people. If you're one of them, please do add your comments below. Share your wisdom with the world. But if you're anything like me, you could use a little bit of help and direction in the styling department. So these tips today that I'm going to share are what I've learned from growing plants, and actually a little bit of tips thrown in there from what I've learned with continuing this YouTube channel around photography and videography. It's all about styling and looking beautiful and creating a space you love without the stress of making it look absolutely perfect. Now, before we jump into the styling, just a quick reminder, styling doesn't matter with your plants if your plant isn't getting the care it needs. That's the hard part about plant styling, in my opinion. Plants just need the right conditions to thrive, and if you're not paying attention to the plant needs first, your styling will just quickly go downhill. So just make sure your plants are getting the right amount of light, water, humidity, temperature in that space before you go ahead and style it. That's super important. For example, you can't put a bright, light-loving plant in a dark corner and expect it to be happy. I mean, that obviously makes sense. And watering needs also play a role. Plants on moss poles or climbing plants need different care sometimes compared to low maintenance or succulents or trailing plants. So it all differs a little bit. So you do just need to get to know your plants a little bit beforehand. So before you start styling, check where each plant is going to be happiest, and that will make styling a lot easier. Okay, so I promised one simple styling trick. Here it is. The one plant styling trick that will honestly change everything in your home is grouping your plants in odd numbers. I know it sounds ridiculously simple and a bit weird if you haven't heard of it before, but here's the thing. There's actually a reason why this works so well, thanks to nature. And it's not just about making your space look cute. This trick actually taps into a natural design principle that you're already seeing all around in nature. Odd number groupings can feel balanced and can instantly transform your space without making it look like a complete mess. Honestly, stay with me here. When I learned about this rule, it was a bit of a game changer for me once I started to implement it and really understand it. So odd numbered groupings create a nice, weird flow about them. Whereas if you put things in even numbers, it creates something that feels a little bit too rigid and stagnant and like regimental kind of thing. So whether you're putting plants on a shelf, whether you're putting plants in a large corner on a side table, go for odd numbers because there is just something about it that feels just a little bit more right and more evenly balanced, even though it's not even numbers, weirdly. Anyway, you get the point. But here's the part that I love the most, right? This tip is not about perfection. It's about flow. It's about a nice, beautiful, natural, organic flow in the way you style things. Your plants need to feel like they belong in that space, not like they've been put there with too much purpose, like a perfect display. Now, don't get me wrong, symmetry plays a part in a lot of styling, but for me, symmetry just never looks good. It looks great in some photos, I admit. Like if you've got a door space and you've got one plant on each side, sometimes that looks good. But for me, I prefer things a little bit random and a little things weird and wonderful, but still looking beautiful and natural. Have you ever heard of the Fibonacci sequence? I'm a bit of a math geek at times. I loved puzzles and numbers. I still love puzzles and numbers actually, but I loved them when I was younger. But anyway, mathematicians from a long, long time ago discovered this natural pattern that you see everywhere in nature, from the arrangement of leaves and branches in trees, to the way petals spiral on flowers, to how pine cones grow. Like this Fibonacci sequence, this beautiful, weird, odd numbered sequence is found in nature everywhere around us. We see it every day without even realizing it. It's actually nature's design, which is why the odd numbering in your plants just feels more relaxed and more beautiful. And when you group your plants in odd numbers like a set of 3, a set of 5, or even a set of 7, naturally create balance without making things look too symmetrical, look too rigid. So it's not just a rule, it's like nature's design, which I think is just beautiful. So yeah, odd numbered groupings are honestly a game changer when you start seeing it and implementing it, and you won't even realize it. But of course, there are some other things around, not just odd numbers, that will help you create a more flowing space. And I want to share them with you as well today. So one thing you could do is think about creating a focal point with one of your plants. It's like any good room design, you need something that draws your eye, especially when you look at those plant styling pictures, you'll always see one big plant in the corner. So in this case, pick one plant in your space, in your shelf or on your side table, pick one main, probably larger plant that really stands out. Now, if you only plan to style a single plant, choose a larger plant. It could be like a big jungle monstera. It could be bird of paradise, could be fiddle leaf fig. They're usually very good focal plants because they're tall and big and they make a statement. If, however, you want to style several plants, choose your focal plant, then arrange the rest of your plants in an odd numbered way around that plant. Second rule is something called the rule of thirds. And I only learned about this in my YouTube era over the last 12 months. Now, it's a styling tip used in photography all around the world and videography. You'll see it without even realizing it. But when I learned about this, it changed the way I was trying to position my plants as well as position myself in videos crazily. Now, bear with me here. Gets a little designy. Take your space that you're decorating, or just take the screen, for example, and you want to split the screen up into thirds. So thirds vertically, 1, 2, 3, and thirds horizontally, kind of like a tic-tac-toe board. Then you want to place your focal plant at one of the intersections. And I hope that's lined up on my screen, right? Because I don't know where those intersections are, how big it is. This makes things just look a little bit more natural, like it's naturally where your eyes want to go. It's like giving the plant like a little spotlight without it looking out of place or just stuck centrally weirdly in the middle. If you have more than one plant, like 5 plants, then the trick is to start with the main plant at one of these intersections and then place others around it. And they don't need to be lined up perfectly. They can be like on the lines or near the intersections. I like to look for asymmetry where I can, but still placing within one of the thirds or one of the intersections. It just keeps everything feeling balanced and not too crowded. If, however, you're working with a lot more plants, use the grid just to spread them out. Don't just place them all in the center or as a group together in one spot. Give the plant space to breathe and still stand on their own a little bit while keeping things looking balanced and flowy with this rule of thirds. You can make the space feel like it has a nice flow without everything being lined up perfectly by learning to use this grid. Remember though, rules are meant to be broken. Once you get the hang of the rule of the thirds and how it works, you can then start to play around with it. You'll find that some plant arrangements look great when you don't stick strictly to the grid. So use the rule of thirds as your guide. But remember, you can always mix things up once you understand how it helps your plants look the best in that space. You can use this styling rule of thirds grid anywhere. You can apply this to shelves, you can apply this to side tables, you can apply this almost anywhere, all photos, for example. It just adds a nice natural flow and keeps things quite dynamic in your photograph or shot or plant space or whatever it is. And sometimes you don't even realize you're seeing it. But you will now that I've said it. You'll see this rule of thirds everywhere when you look on YouTube or photography or magazines, etc. Sorry, but seriously, it's very cool. Another tip you might want to think about when plant styling is adding texture and layering. I remember right at the beginning when I was first getting into plants and trying to figure out styling, I read this book and it told me one simple tip, and that was about being mindful of what pots I picked, as in be mindful of a color. The advice was to choose 1 or 2 colors and stick with that the whole time. And I took that and I couldn't believe how simple that point was, but I've really appreciated it since then. I chose white pots, a couple of terracotta ones thrown in there, nothing too fancy, just simple and natural because that's the aesthetic I was going for. And honestly, that decision just helped me so much. Like, it's incredible looking back how much that tip has helped. That one simple trick taught me something. Sometimes, honestly, less is more. It's okay to stick to a simple color scheme that works for you. You can make things interesting by adding texture. And you'll see in my pots, I've got glossy ones, I've got matte ones, I've got round short ones, tall ones, weird shaped ones. But you can also do this not just with pots, you can do this with the different types of plants. So for example, think glossy leaves with matte leaves, or tall plants with short plants, or moss pole plants with trailing plants. Think about stacking some plants on maybe some small books to add more depth or more layering, just a little bit of interest. Trying to add this sense of layering and texture, just give your space a little bit of movement and dimension and interest to that space. And then there's one final thing I want to throw in here, and that is use of negative space. This is a big styling thing, but it comes really handy when you're going into your plants. Make sure you leave enough space around your plants so they can breathe and not feel or look overcrowded. Negative space plays just as an important part in your plant styling as the plants themselves. When you crowd a space with too many plants, it just looks messy. It looks like a garden center. Actually, garden centers still look nice and breathable because they have a lot of space and walkways, so that doesn't make sense. But anyway, the point is you want to give your plants room to breathe. And it just highlights each plant out and lets each plant stand out, but at the same time, making the whole space have flow and room and texture and all of that stuff. It just adds a little bit more depth to that point. Think of it like breathing room for your plants. Each one should have its own little space to shine, but then when you look at it as a whole, it also looks amazingly beautiful and natural and pleasing to the eye. So by grouping your plants in odd numbers, you're tapping into this like natural rhythm in nature and plants and everything. And that instantly makes your space feel just that little bit more harmonious, that little bit more balanced. And it's a simple trick that can change the whole vibe of your plant jungle without you even realizing it. And hey, look, if you're someone who can throw together a beautiful Pinterest-worthy space with lots of colors and lots of textures and lots of different things without breaking a sweat like I am right now, I am super jealous of you. Please add your gift to the world in the comments below. Let us hear your tips and tricks. I'd love to hear anything from yourself. People who just have natural art abilities are just amazing to me. But if you're like me and you need these tips and you found any of these styling tips helpful, please do me a favor, hit the like button and just let me know you're enjoying the content that I'm giving you so I can keep continuing to provide more content. And of course, all of these rules, just remember to take them as you like. The whole point of styling plants in your house is to do what you like. So if one of these rules doesn't work for you, if you don't like asymmetry and you like things a little bit more symmetric, do that. Take the rules you don't like, throw them out the window, and only use the ones that you vibe with. It's much better for you. It's your space. Do what you love. Make that space look how you want it to. Nothing else matters. So when it comes to plants in your home, of course, styling is a really big part. It's a really big part for me, but there's a whole lot more to it. It's part of the series. Please do go and have a look at it if you haven't seen it before. But I've decided to add one more bonus video to this series. It's going to be a this and that video. So I'm going to go back to the plant store. Bonus. I'm going to have a look around. I want to show you plants that you probably should avoid, that are probably too high maintenance, or they might even cause a little bit of trouble. I'm looking at you, Ivy. Ivy the plant. There's no person here. There's no Ivy person here. Stick around and stay tuned for my this and that plant video recommendations coming up in this video next. Sending you off with leaves, love and laughter all week long, all month long. Thank you very much for joining me. I'll see you in this video next. See you later. Okay, we're up to the final video. So before you go plant shopping again, watch this last video first, if that makes sense, because some of the most popular plants out there are actually kind of a nightmare. Let me save you from that struggle and show you some really better alternatives before one of those new plants might just break your heart. Can you hear that music? Beverly Hills Cop. Great song. Probably can't tell we've been going. So not all plants are created equally, in my opinion. Some give you beautiful joy and relaxation, while others, I swear, are out to plot against you. They feel like they're about to ruin your planty jungle dreams. So let's go through some plants today. We'll pick out which ones which are high maintenance, maybe even invasive, to avoid, and let's look at some alternatives instead. I'm sure you've seen it this in that video. You know how it goes, so let's get straight into it. Okay, and so the first one we're going to start with, I can see it over here. I know where it is. It is the tree that's been shaken more times than a maraca on social media. It is the fiddle leaf fig. Okay, now look, I know everybody loves this plant. It's stunning, I get it. And if you can nail the care routine, it is a showstopper, you know, no doubt about that. It's very tall. It can be a huge statement if you grow it right. But that's the hard part, is growing it right. This plant is super fussy. When you have it at home, it hates being moved, it hates being rotated. You might even look at it the wrong way and feel like it's dropping leaves. It's that weird, it's that fussy. It does need a lot of bright light, consistent bright light. If the light is too low, you get a lot of leaves dropping, especially from the base, and then you get a really bare stem, which is hard. It's picky about watering. Give it too much, it'll get root rot. Too little, you'll get crispy leaves. And look, it is a bit of a dust magnet. So you just have to keep wiping the leaves, which isn't a problem so much, but the leaves themselves have quite a lot of ridges and it can just be a little annoying. So For me, this isn't really a good plant, especially if you're beginning or just starting out. Despite its Instagram appeal, I know you see it everywhere, it is just very high maintenance. If I was to go something different, I would honestly go for something like this one here next door. This is a bird of paradise. I'm sure you've seen this one around before as well. And this one can give a very similar big statement look. It's a very tropical plant. It just reminds me of holiday plants like palm trees and things. It's just beautiful. And the leaves can get really, really huge with the right light. Now, the reason why I like this one better than the fiddle leaf is it just tolerates a different range of light. It's not as fussy as the fiddle leaf fig. It definitely prefers brighter light but can handle moderate light. I have two outside. One in a very shady spot outside and one in like almost direct sun for at least half the day, and they both do very, very well. I find that the bird of paradise can handle some neglect. It can tolerate missed waterings here and there, and it'll just droop a little bit. So when it's drooping, give it a good water and it'll tell you. So unlike the fiddle leaf fig, if it doesn't get enough water, it can drop leaves. And look, the only other thing here, of course, is you do also have to dust the leaves, but these large leaves are smooth and just easy to clean. Grab those amazing microfiber gloves that I always talk about and give them a wipe. So it is beautiful. I honestly think a bird of paradise, it's just another better alternative, easier alternative that makes a big statement in your home. What else have we got? Okay, what's this one? This is a different buckia. Look, the leaves are pretty gorgeous. You can get them in a variety of different variegations and patterns on the leaves. But the one thing I think is bad about a different buckia is it is toxic to pets and to humans, actually. It's one of those plants that is quite toxic. I mean, there's plenty of plants out there that are toxic, but if you don't touch them or if you break them, they don't burn like this one does. So I have just stayed away from this one. I've got 2 dogs and my dogs don't touch my plants, but I still stay away from this one. So if you don't have pets, it's no problem. You can grab one of these. But to be honest, other things I don't like about it, it is prone to drooping and yellow leaves. It does need bright, indirect light to stay looking good. It can handle a lower light, I believe, but it's just better in bright, indirect light to make it stay beautiful and like looking lush, especially if it's variegated. If it doesn't get good lighting, it can get very leggy. It definitely loses lower leaves again. I don't know. There's just something about a different buckia. No matter how beautiful they look in a greenhouse, they never look good in my house. What would I go for instead? I mean, it's right here on the table. It's a bit of a giveaway, but I'd have to say a peace lily is a great alternative. If you've seen a few of my videos before, I've talked it in this series. A peace lily is just beautiful. And if you're worried about just basic green leaves, don't. There's a lot more variegation and beautiful variegation in peace lilies these days. For me, a peace lily is just a lot easier than a Dieffenbachia. It is bright, beautiful, gives jungle vibes. This one here is just like this almost white, gorgeous colour. I really love this. I really do need to buy myself one of these again. You just need to watch when it needs a water. It'll droop a little bit and then water it again, but it can handle a lot of water. It can handle a little bit less water. Just a peace lily, I think, is really beautiful. It can handle lower light conditions, whereas Dieffenbachia can be a little bit fussy about its lighting. I think peace lilies are beautiful. I've done a whole video about looking after them. I think they're one of the most underrated plants. I've talked about them before, so I won't talk about them much. Beautiful. Oh, look at that one. Just beautiful, pretty leaves. And they can grow absolutely huge. Look at these flowers, or they're called spates, I believe, but this flower, oh my God, it's the size of my hand. Look at it. This is ridiculous. It's just beautiful. So peace lily over Dieffenbachia any day.
And what else have we got? Oh, minis. Look at the minis. Are these dwarfs? Mini dwarfs.
Okay, let's talk calatheas. I know plenty of people on social media and YouTube have spoken about calatheas, and while they are just absolutely gorgeous, I mean, the leaves are stunning every time I walk past them in the store, like this one. You just look at them and go, oh, I would love that in my house. It just gives a different, unique vibe to the leaves and the patterns and everything. Oh, absolutely love them. Now, don't get me wrong, if you do want to go for a calathea, go for it. You'll learn a lot through calatheas. But you've got to get it really right. It's like the Goldilocks of plants. You've got to have the right water, not too much, not too little. You've got to have the right lighting, not too much, not too little. You've got to have the right soil mixture, not too damp, not too soggy. It's like you've got to get it right in the middle. But even if you look in stores, they are just really hard to keep looking good. They're really, really fussy. I mean, even in this store, you can see here is, I mean, it looks great in this big bunch, but you can see here, look, brown. It's just hard, really hard to look after. The good thing about it, it is pet friendly. You know, they're absolutely beautiful, but they're just very, very fussy. And they get spider mites very, very easily. I guess a few plants do, don't get me wrong, but they can get spider mites. And once you get a calathea in a bad situation, once it's not happy, it's actually quite hard, or just takes a long, long, long time to get it back to being happy again. Better alternatives, I think. There's actually two very similar. One is a stromanthe. This one here, as you can see, it actually is quite similar. It's just long, thin leaves. I have one of these at home in quite a dark spot, and you can see even here under the table, it's getting a little bit of a shade compared to the calatheas up on top of the table. You can also get this stromanthe triastar, which has this gorgeous variegation with these pinkish hues on the underneath of the leaf. Just stunning. But an even easier, slightly easier alternative is something called a tenanthe. And I'll make sure the name is on the screen here because it starts with a C. It's a silent C, tenanthes. But again, tenanthes and stromanthes to me are almost the opposite in terms of fussiness to calatheas. So what I mean by that is they're less fussy about humidity, they don't crisp up as easily, they're less fussy about the watering, they can tolerate normal tap water, unlike they're less drought tolerant, they're okay with occasionally missing the watering. They do still prefer high humidity, don't get me wrong, they just are a little bit less fussy. Look, if you do want to go calatheas, I'm not going to stop you because I have some and I do think they're beautiful, but if you can't get them right in a greenhouse, just don't beat yourself up if you can't get them right in your own home. So don't beat yourself up if calatheas sometimes go a little bit odd. It just takes a while to get used to them.
Look at that Prince of Orange. That's nice. Beautiful orange. Or is that a sunset? What's that? Cardinal hybrid. That's interesting. Look at that orange. Oof, that is beautiful. Get away, phone tag.
Okay. Oh my gosh, look at these little bubbies. Oh my gosh. Okay, this here is an ivy. Now, I was hoping to find an ivy because ivies are the cutest little things. Like, this is so cute, and they do come with beautiful variegation. You can see here, but I can't see many big ones here, and I actually think that's a really good thing because ivies are, what are they? They're invasive. If you buy an ivy and you put it in the ground outside or you put it somewhere where it can just grow, it will grow really fast for you. And it's really, really hard to get rid of once you have grown it, once it's overgrown, once it's really found its happy spot. You know those big like fences and walls in like the English countryside that you see with the plant all over them? That's ivy. And then when you take that plant away, or if it starts dying off, you're left with this takeover of dry like vines and stems that just looks bare. It looks almost like a tree snail kind of thing has gone over the wall. It's hard to explain. I've got this weird thing in my head. Anyway, just ignore that. What would I go for instead of an ivy? That's a fairly easy swap. That you'd have to go for a pothos. So where are they? Look, this shop has so many different pothoses. For me, a pothos is nearly indestructible. This pothos, depending on the variety, of course, but a lot of pothoses. Is that the plural? Pothoses? Pothos? Whatever it is. Somebody tell me the plural of pothos. Anyway, they're nearly indestructible. They thrive on neglect. They can adapt to so many different conditions in your house: low light, high light, low, watering needs, higher watering needs. They are really just an easy beginner plant, and even for intermediate and experts, the trick to these is to try and grow the leaves really huge. I have a viewer out there who can grow really big leaves. I think he said it was like 25 centimetres wide. That is crazy. So even for more experienced plant people, we still love a pothos because there's still a challenge to them. They're fast growing, very easy to propagate. You can have them trailing or climbing. They come in different varieties. My favourite has to be the Mandula pothos, but I also love my neon pothos, my marble queen, even the golden pothos just grows beautifully. The only thing about a pothos, they are mildly toxic to pests, especially if you have cats that eat plants or dogs that chew up plants. They can cause a mild stomachache if they are ingested. But again, I have plenty of pothoses at home. My dogs just don't go near them, don't touch them. I mean, their tails like whack against the leaves and they break the leaves. Thank you very much. but they're just beautiful varieties and so much easier. So honestly, as much as an ivy might just look gorgeous, unless you want it taking over your house, just stay away and go for a pothos. So much easier. I think that's just a no-brainer. Pothos over ivy any day. Oh, look at this. Okay, let's talk string ofs. So look at this little baby. Ooh, and it's variegated as well. So string of pearls, it looks like little peas. I wonder why they didn't call them string of peas. I really like them, but in the most experienced growers find string of pearls actually really hard because they are just a fussy plant. I think the biggest issue is they're very sensitive to overwatering. If you do overwater it, it can rot very fast if the soil stays too wet. If it's underwatered, the pearls can shrivel up. I'll show you a B-roll of one I've got at home where I have had to catch the string of pearls shriveling up because I wasn't watering it enough and it was in a very bright spot. These guys do need direct light. They need direct sun. If not, they'll grow leggy and they're definitely not pet friendly. You don't want your cat or dog eating the little bally things. So just, if you do have a string of pearls, just keep them away. So instead of string of pearls, go for, look, there's one on the left here. It's cute. It's a little bit different. It's a better alternative. It can live indoors a lot easier. It can tolerate lower light if need to. I still think bright indirect light is best. And it can go weeks without water as well. This one is actually not toxic to pests. And again, it just looks quite, I think, unique and a little bit different. And again, oh, look, this one here. It's flowering. This Rhipsalis is flowering. Just beautiful. And for this one compared to, I've got a string of pearls that has had mealybugs, whereas I've found not really any issues with a Rhipsalis because you don't need to water them so they don't get fungus gnats. I don't find mealybugs on them. I mean, tell me out there if you've got a Rhipsalis and you've had pest issues with them, what pest goes on them. Please leave it in the comments below. Oh, let's go have a look at the succulents. Okay, so look, I think some people think succulents are quite easy because you just stick them out in the sun and you leave them. I've actually found succulents harder than that. I think the hardest thing about succulents is you think they just don't need any water, but they do. If you think about where cacti live, they are dry for a long time and then they get a huge drenching from the rains that come through. You can't overwater a succulent because they get root rot if you overwater a cacti or a succulent. Look at these. Aren't these just like movie material? Like, what is it about them? What are they? I can't think of the word. They're just unique and I can't think of the word for it, but just stunning. Now, if you are going to try a succulent for the very first time, go for a jade plant. This one here, this has taken years, like the one here, it's huge. And I have a huge whole video about how to look after jade plants. They are slow growers, just like cacti and other succulents are, but they're just a lot easier. They're a lot tolerant. They're so easy to propagate. You literally just snip it off and pop it into some soil and they'll propagate so easily. Like, I don't know, I just find jade plants are just beautiful. They do hold a lot of water, so you don't want to overwater them, but they tell you when they're happy by giving you this tiny little like reddish tinge or a little like reddish hue to the end of the leaf tips on most jade plants. But yeah, just beautiful. Jade plants over a succulent any day. Once you get used to that, then start going for your cacti and other different things. But you just need to get used to the right amount of watering, not too little and not too much. I was hoping we would get to this. Bromeliads for me is something that I would honestly avoid like the plague. I am sorry to anyone who loves their bromeliads, and I do see them more outside than inside. I don't really see these as an inside plant, to be honest. Bromeliads are just... I don't like them. I've never had one, I must admit, because here in Australia, there are mosquitoes everywhere. And the one thing for me I don't like about bromeliads is every time it rains or every time you water them, they hold water. Look, this one's got water. Look, they've all got water. They just hold water in that little middle area. And if you've got mozzies around, they breed in water. So I just don't have them because I don't want to breed mosquitoes. I would rather be in a room full of fungus gnats versus a room full of mosquitoes any day. Oh, it's the worst thing. Oh, don't even want to think about it. And I also have, from what I have read and researched and seen, they are a one and done plant. If the plant flowers, the main plant dies off and then you have to start again almost. So you can have this one period of time where the bromeliad is ugly and then it's beautiful and then it's ugly. The only thing I do like about a bromeliad is some of them have these gorgeous, vibrant colours in the middle of them, and the flowers can be really vibrant as well. They're picky about light, too little, it struggles too much. You can scorch it, especially if outside. And they do need a constant balance of the right watering schedule. I mean, pick a struggle. Which one do you want? Bromeliads are hard. So instead of a bromeliad, and as you can see, we're inside for this one, but I would say go for a happy plant because they're happy. The Dracaena fragrance, you can get a few different Dracaena ones. There's this big one here, but the happy plant is the one I think is the best alternative because it's the easiest. It's very low maintenance. Mine, I hardly touch. It thrives on neglect. It doesn't need constant attention. It does need a good amount of light, but it can handle lower light. I have mine outside and it gets 5 hours of direct sun in the afternoon, but I have gradually acclimated it to being in that spot. So just move it every couple of months. It's also meant to be an air purifying plant. It filters toxins, supposedly. I personally think all plants do that, but supposedly this one does it very well. And they're drought tolerant. They can go for weeks without water. Just don't give it too much water. It is a little bit more like a succulent than anything because you don't want to give it root rot. You know, a happy plant, Dracaena fragrans, beautiful plant, easy plant, much better alternative to bromeliads. Okay, ferns. Let's go in the fern department. If we're going to go for ferns, I have spoken about ferns earlier in this series, and it is a beautiful plant, but there are some that are easier than others. Well, there's a couple that are easier. Don't go for a fern that is really delicate, especially if you're starting out. They can be super thirsty. And as I mentioned right at the beginning in my very first video about how to buy a plant like the pros do, when it comes to ferns, they need a lot of water, like lots and lots and lots. It's actually easier to almost sit it in a basin of water to grow it that way. Because the leaves are very thin, it needs to take up more water to keep its structure. So it just needs more. So it's really hard to know how much to water it, and you can easily forget to water it. It doesn't like neglect. In fact, it won't forgive you. Once you neglect it, it will die. I think it'll drop. It's a dramatic plant. So even a Boston fern I find hard, and especially don't give them a lot of light. Give them low light conditions, very shady spots. So they do need a lot of humidity, especially something like a Boston fern like this one here. They love spider mites, or spider mites love Boston ferns. If when it's full and bushy and beautiful like these here, they can be gorgeous. I do love them actually. They look really beautiful. If you're going to buy a fern, go for a bird's nest fern. And the reason why is because it has a thicker leaf and it can hold water a little bit more. So it's not as demanding on the watering needs as the other ferns. Another really good one, which I haven't tried before, is the blue star fern here. Oh, these leaves are quite big. Look at this. The blue star fern, just gorgeous, but I haven't tried that, so I don't really know what it's like, but I've heard it's very easy as well. And again, I would just say it's because it has thicker stems and slightly thicker leaves. So ferns are beautiful, but again, can be really hard. What else have we got? Tradescantias. These are also called wandering dews. Some people love these plants, and I had one of these plants a long time ago when I first started collecting plants. The reason why I got rid of it, to be honest, is they're not good for pets. If you have pets, they can be quite toxic, so I got rid of it. But the other main reason I don't like them is it can get leggy very fast, and if you don't look after it, the top of the plant just goes bare. So you can get really beautiful leaves still growing at the base, really long like vines coming off the Tradescantia, but the top can be really bare, and I just think that's ugly. I don't like it. So to keep it happy, it needs frequent trimming. It's not a true low light plant. A lot of people say it goes in low light well, but you do need to get at least some bright indirect light on this one, especially because it's a lot of it's variegated or white or different like pattern leaves. You need higher variegation for pattern leaves. And it can be sensitive to overwatering. It can be overwatered and can lead to root rot, and the leaves can be delicate and they break easy, and if you knock into it you can bend the leaves and break it. It's just, I don't know, I don't really do Tradescantias anymore. They can look great, but you've got to cut them up very frequently, like I think it's every 3 or every 6 months you need to trim them and start again almost, otherwise it just looks patchy. What would I get instead? Do you know what? I would probably go for a spider plant. Spider plants to me are like my top 3 plants for complete beginners. They are the easiest thing to look after. They thrive on neglect. They adapt to most conditions. High humidity, lower humidity, higher light, lower light. It's easy to propagate, especially if it starts producing those little pups that come off them. I have one outside at home, and gosh, it needs a propagation. It's got like millions of baby little plants actually. Spiderettes, they're called. They are pet friendly. Now they can get a few brown tips here, so just cut them off over time. And they do grow fast, so they can root bound quite easily, so you just need to repot them every now and again. But for me, spider plants are so easy. So yeah, spider plants, just beautiful again. Finally, a Fittonia plant. These are the most dramatic plants I think I've ever come across. They're the biggest little drama queens in the world. Like, they're colourful, you can get them pinks and reds, but I find as soon as you miss a watering day, maybe you have to water every 3 or 4 days, but if you miss an extra day, it'll go from beautifully bright and healthy to dropping like a stick. It's just crazy. And I find that if you look after them, if you give them attention, they don't like it. If you just ignore them completely, Fittonias like them a lot better. So instead of a Fittonia, go for a Peperomia. And go for a Peperomia that has smooth leaves, like no texture on the leaves, because the textured leaves are a little bit harder Peperomias to look after. It can tolerate different type of light conditions. Indirect bright light is best for most plants, and Peperomias no exception. And they can stay compact. I think Peperomias are one of those smaller plants, unlike many other plants that just grow bigger and bigger. So Peperomia are great for small spaces if you live in city conditions.
And that's a wrap, as they say in show business, I think. Maybe they still say that. Anyway, that's a wrap on the ultimate guide to buying the perfect plant content marathon or compilation. If you've made it this far, thank you very much. You're officially on your way to becoming a plant pro, and you are an absolute rock star. Please do me a favor, for those of you who have got to the end, put a star emoji. I'll leave this one on the screen. Put it in the comments below to let me know that you've made it this far. And if you have, tell me, what was your biggest aha moments? Was it thick versus thin leaves? Was it the rule of thirds? Maybe it was the pink syngoniums grow up a moss pole? Who knows? Let me know. And as a bonus, as I promised, here is the QR code for that quiz for the picking the perfect plant in your space. I have also left it in the description. Grab this code, grab this quiz, and find the best fit for the best plant in that space in your home. It's all yours. I hope you enjoy it. Also, of course, if you love this marathon, I've got plenty more planty tips waiting for you. So hit that subscribe button. Let's keep building your plant confidence together, bringing you leaves, love, and laughter. Until next time, see you later. Bye.